Hi there. We're on page 21 in the booklet today. And before we get to Pastor Dan's video, I just wanted to point out we know that there's a typo in the title, Possessions. Didn't see it a month ago, so I just wanted to thank you for your grace on that. We saw it after they were printed. I just am excited about this study because we're talking about the very words of Jesus, the teachings and parables that came from his mouth. So I want to encourage you in your group tonight to read the sections of scripture, not only the ones that are in the book, but maybe look at some different translations and really talk about the words that Jesus said before you get to the group discussion questions. Pastor Dan's sermon on Sunday was so powerful, and he ended it with 3 questions that I think if you weren't there or maybe you didn't write them down, you should do that now on page 20 on the sermon notes. He asked, number 1, how did you get your wealth? Number 2, what are you doing with your wealth? And the toughest question, number 3, what is it doing to you? I encourage you to think about that, maybe talk about it with your group, or maybe this is something you just want to talk to God about. Here's Pastor Dan. Have a great study.
Hey everybody, I'm glad you're joining us. I'm so excited. I was just looking over the questions that are in this study this week, and I'm excited for you that you're going to discuss those questions, and I wish that I could be in your group and really engage with you over these issues. It is so powerful. Because I can't, what I thought would be good is if I kind of set the stage for what you're going to discuss. So a man comes to Jesus. If you've read the text, you know what he asked. He has a dispute going on with his brother over an inheritance. And the reason that he comes to Jesus is because Jesus is regarded as a rabbi. And a rabbi has the power to dispel disputes, help people make right decisions. But Jesus responds in a different way than the man expected. Jesus says to this man, listen, buddy, that's a paraphrase, by the way. The truth is that you need to be aware of covetousness in your life. Coveting things is a very devastating thing. So let me define coveting for just a minute. Coveting is when I am wanting more than what God has provided for my life. Normally, coveting happens when you are comparing what you have to somebody else. And then you're no longer satisfied, so you want more. So the question then is why is coveting such a devastating thing? So let me see if I can help you figure that out along the way, because I think this is so important for you to understand. Oftentimes, we gain our sense of identity or significance by what we own. And when we do that, it is a trap that we fall into that can destroy our very soul. And Jesus explains that in this particular section of Scripture. So in this story, this man is described in 3 ways. First of all, he's described as someone who wants more. He wants more. He has abundance, but he wants more than abundance. He wants overabundant stuff. Secondly, he is described as very selfish. And thirdly, he is described in this story as foolish. And I'm just going to tell you, friend to friend, whenever the Bible describes us in our actions as foolish, it is time to sit up and take note. This is a very important thing for us to really wrestle with and wrap our minds around of how covetousness works in our life and how to avoid it. So I'm going to talk about what the antidote for covetousness is. The antidote is generosity. So I want to talk about why generosity is so significant when it comes to avoiding coveting things. The answer is it changes our focus. It changes our focus from me to God. And it's a very powerful thing when that happens. I want to tell you my own story. So I was saved in 1977, and the very first Bible study that I did as a believer revolved around the idea of generosity. So in this story of generosity that I learned, my wife and I together decided that we were going to practice generosity. That started in 1977, and we have not looked back since. And it isn't about what God has provided. I could spend the rest of my time with you talking about what God has provided in my life, but that's not the point. The point of generosity is it changes my focus, and that's exactly what it did in my life. So the reality is that when I get generosity, I'm not working to get things for me. I'm getting things and working for the sake of the kingdom, to give more to the kingdom, to be generous with what I've got. And when I do that, the bottom line is that I find myself more in love with Jesus, more focused on his kingdom, and God just blesses from start to finish in that regard. And so I want to end with this idea: beware. That's what Jesus says. Beware of covetousness in your own life, because it can capture your soul. Instead, replace it with a spirit of generosity. And I hope in your small groups tonight and this afternoon, or wherever you are, whatever time of day it is, that you engage with these questions with integrity and honesty, and let God speak into your heart, lean into him, and let him have the final say in your own life in generosity.